All right, folks, we finally finished crying. So we're ready to talk about this race. My name is Pia.
My name is Milan.
Thank you for tuning in here at the Daily Racing Show with RacePlazaMedia. But before we get into this craziness of a race it was, let's play the intro.
All right. So this was the last race of the triple header, or like the back-to-back races that we had now. We finished up in Silverstone.
Yes.
And then we actually, going out of qualifying, we had 3 British drivers on the 3 top steps, I guess. So P1 was Russell, P2 was Hamilton, and P3 was Lando.
Yes.
And then we had P4, we had
Verstappen.
and then P5 was
Sainz, and then we had Hülkenberg.
Wait, Piastri?
Oh, sorry. We had Verstappen, Piastri, then Hülkenberg, and then Sainz and stuff.
Yes.
But yeah, so it was a little bit of different lineup. Perez didn't make it out of Q1.
Yeah, he got stuck in the gravel trap.
Leclerc didn't make it out of Q2, so there was a couple upsets, but also qualifying was just very tight, period. It was very...
It's also difficult conditions.
Yes, it was a little bit tricky, but then also the race was really, really tricky. I mean, we started off, of course, with the British lockout in the front. The start was not
uneventful.
Super. Yeah, I mean, there was not a lot happening.
The only person that ended up getting picked off, it was not directly going into turn 1, but it was Lando, who ended up losing a position to Verstappen. Then Russell in the front was able to drive out a little bit of a gap.
Yes.
However, Hamilton also had a little bit of a gap. So there was always everywhere a little bit of a gap.
Yeah, exactly. There was no DRS train really at the beginning. I mean, there was a gap driven out pretty quickly, but then the factor of weather came in pretty quickly as well.
However, who also had actually an incredible start, who started on P11th, was Charles. He actually ended up jumping a bunch of positions, and he was, after the start, he was P8, I think. So he had actually an incredible start, but we'll get to his race in just a second.
Yeah,
you know.
I know. But then also Pierre Gasly, unfortunately, never even participated in the race.
Yeah, at the end of the formation.
Yeah, exactly. He was starting or supposed to start at 20th because he got...
he got a grid penalty.
He got grid penalties because of power unit replacements and such. Then they started the formation lap, and then as soon as the formation lap finished, he didn't even get into position. He went immediately into the pits, and they unfortunately had to retire the car, which is a big bummer, of course.
And then Checo started from the pits.
Checo started from the pits, yes.
Yeah, because I remember seeing a car going into the pits, and I was like, "Oh, is Checo allowed to participate in the formation lap to warm up his tires too?" He's not.
No.
And and then it was Gasly. This is like, is it the second time we had this? Because we had Tsunoda, I don't remember if it was this year, who didn't even make it out of...
I think that was last season.
I can't remember, but yeah, this has happened now more often than not.
It happens occasionally. I mean, it was such a bummer.
Especially because Gasly and Ocon got points last race. I think the race before he got points, so the Alpine has been doing better.
Yes.
So either some parts weren't properly installed or something is going on, which is really unfortunate because you already got new parts.
Yes.
You would think it would go better, especially because this race was probably the race, depending on your strategy, where you could have even made it from P20 into the points potentially.
Potentially.
You know? Potentially.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it would have been easy. But considering that he does have a car that's maybe a little bit faster than some of the other ones that are driving in the back, he could have maybe made it into the points, or he at least made up a lot of positions. Yeah, so going into the race, we knew that there was rain gonna be coming at some point. Pretty quickly into the race, it was like, okay, around lap 6 is when we'll have a little bit of rain at, I think it was turn 16. And then there will be a little bit of a break before the bigger rain cell will appear. So then the question, of course, was, because originally Silverstone is really just a one-stop race. However, of course, with rain coming, there's the question, do you switch to intermediates? Do you switch to wets? Do you have to switch at all, depending on how wet it gets, how wet the track is, and how drivable the track is? So that already led... to some interesting decisions.
Yeah.
So originally the idea was either do you do medium hards or you do medium softs, right? And then so when the first set of rain came around, which was I think it maybe started drizzling around lap 6, but then it kind of started picking up a few laps later.
Yes.
So around maybe lap 10, there was there were some sectors of the track that was quite a lot more rain, and then so Checo and Leclerc. And I think Zhou Guanyu did the really strange thing is where they knew that the rain was going to come.
Yes.
But because he was one of the few people that started on the softs compared to the mediums, they put him on the mediums. And then, like, honestly, like
less than 5 laps later, they had to switch him again.
Yeah, within 5, they had to. So they torpedoed his race. And of course, their pit stops are not really that great. And either at stake/kick. But anyways, so Checo and Perez were plus Zhou Guanyu.
You said Checo and Perez.
Checo and Charles were the first ones really. There was one more, I think, to switch to the intermediates, and it immediately torpedoed their race because the track was not wet enough.
Yeah.
There was actually a conversation that Bono had with Hamilton. Was like, "Do you want to come in for the intermediates?" And he was like, "No." And then immediately you could see Charles coming out of the pits, and he was ahead of Bottas. All of a sudden, Bottas passes Charles. We didn't actually see any of that on camera. We just kept track on it on the side.
Yeah.
And then Charles dropped off like a mother effer.
I mean, within a couple laps, he was 45 seconds behind.
Yeah, he ended up, it was insane. It was just a wrong call.
Yeah, so all the people who changed on the inters for the first little rain shower, like, pretty much torpedoed their race. For the second set of rain. Oh, sorry, did you want to say something?
I didn't know if you want to talk about leading into before the pit stop, change to the inters, but everything happened on track because there was quite a lot of...
Okay, you can go for it.
Oh, yeah, I thought you were. No. So essentially... so it started to rain quite a bit. However, it seemed like, especially in the beginning, Hamilton was able to manage to rain a lot more, and he was able to pass Russell to go into first place. Then Russell dropped off a little bit, but then all of a sudden, the McLarens just really turned up. They just seemed to really love the rain.
Yes.
In the amount of rain in combination to that a little bit older medium tire.
Yes.
And then so Piastri and Norris both ended up passing Verstappen, and they both passed
George.
And then Norris also ended up passing Hamilton. And then they...
and that
happened? No, sorry. And then Piastri also passed Hamilton because it was a 1, 2, 3 for the McLaren.
But that all happened within, like, 3 laps or so. It happened so fast.
Yeah, less than 3 laps probably.
Hamilton passed George. And we're like,
all of
Hamilton.
that,
And then all of a sudden the McLarens just, like, showed up, and it was insane. And then also Verstappen had, like, this very strange beginning of the race. Like, yes, he had passed Lando, but as soon as he did that, he started losing time. It was like it was significantly slower, and it was really interesting. I mean, we didn't see him really, but we saw it on the timing sheet as well, that he was losing a lot of time. And then it was, of course, the rain started coming in, so now it was the question, who's going into the pits when? And then Verstappen went into the pits pretty quickly. Lando went first in. Mercedes did a double, like a stack. But however, McLaren screwed up Piastri's race because they had let him out. Lando went in for the pits first. They could have stacked them too, like Mercedes did it as well. I mean, it would have lost some time there,
but not as
much time, because by the time Piastri did his lap to go into the pits, Lando had almost caught him again. So he lost around 18 seconds during that one lap, which is so sad.
So they just threw him to the fish, the fishes, or however you say. And so they really screwed up his race because he would have been able to maybe fight for the podium. I'm not sure. I thought it was also interesting. We'll talk about it later. Yeah, but then they switched to the intermediates, and then then it was Norris, Hamilton, Verstappen, George in the back. I think George was not ahead of Verstappen.
He came up behind
Verstappen. But then, unfortunately, there was some water system issue
or a suspected water system issue.
Well, I guess they were maybe like, oh, we don't want to potentially damage the car further, or they were like, we want to also avoid maybe bringing out the safety. I don't know. Well, it must have been big enough problem for them to retire the car, which is really unfortunate because Russell literally went from winning a race to starting on a pole at home to then DNFing, and especially because it's not something that he had done. I will say I don't think if Russell would have been still in the race, I don't think the whoever won the race would have changed. I think the thumbnail probably gave it away, but I don't think it would have not changed because Hamilton was already ahead of him.
Yes,
but it is very, very unfortunate because I'm sure he could have also fought for some position.
Well, and also he could have made
podium,
very important points, and then he could have definitely been in contention for the podium, which the podium fight was really interesting, but we'll get to that in a second.
Yes, because I do wanted to point out a few people. Okay, so first of all, the Ferrari performance is very, very underwhelming.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're like one of the teams that haven't brought any upgrades. I know that Red Bull brought upgrades to this race, so maybe those upgrades weren't fine-tuned yet, because at the end of the race, Verstappen had excellent race pace.
Yeah, once they switched back to the slicks, that's when things changed again.
Yeah.
But it was really unfortunate. We didn't see Carlos racing pretty much for most of the race. He ended up coming in 5th. I was super excited that Nico Hülkenberg came in 6th. He was pretty much 6th for most of the race. He started on 6th, but he lost a couple positions at one point also to Leclerc.
No, he started on 7th, right? Because he gained a position because of Russell?
No.
Was it not... Was it not?
No, because Sainz was behind him.
Oh, he started behind him. The Ferrari behind the Haas.
I think so.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So then, we also had no. I mean, we really just saw the fight between the first 4 for most of the race, which was. I mean, it was so interesting. Such a great race, especially of course the rain. Of course helps.
It's good to see we have Albon in points, the Williams up in points, which is awesome. We have the 2 Aston Martins in 7th and 8th, which we didn't see anything of them. It's a little unfortunate because I do love to see the man with the plan doing something interesting on track, but we didn't really get to see any of them. And then the last one rounding up the points was Yuki. Yeah. So really great job by him getting that point in there for him. And then we had Sargent, Magnussen, Ricciardo, Charles in 14th. And then Bottas, Ocon, Perez, and then Joe.
Yeah, but I mean, it was also like the pits were just horrific today. I feel like
everyone. So we couldn't figure out whether or not there's a reason that pit stops are slower during the rain, but everyone was terrible during the rain.
Yeah, I think we had 1 2-second pit stop. I think it was for Perez, one of the earlier ones.
To be fair, though, when Hamilton switched to the softs, he would have had a good pit stop. He was just had to wait for his release.
No, for
sure. So he ended up having a 2.9 to maybe he would have had like a 2.5 or a little bit less than that, which helped them also tremendously because the surprising thing is McLaren choked during their last pit stop. They had a 4.5 to Mercedes is delayed 2.9. So I didn't have a lot of faith in Mercedes because they have not been good with their pit stops.
Yeah, they're not very
they're inconsistent, right? But then Hamilton took the lead.
Yeah.
And I think now I forgot. So essentially Max and Hamilton pitted for the soft, and Max actually switched to Verstappen in their second pit stop.
You just said Max switched to Verstappen.
Max switched to the hards during his second pit stop. Sorry, guys.
He went into Verstappen mode.
You would have Verstappen. He did actually go into Verstappen mode. He did.
It was crazy.
But so they actually ended up pitting
at the same time
at a lap earlier than Lando,
yes,
which I don't think was the right decision.
Which hurt Lando's race for sure.
Both times made two bad pitting decisions. I will say I don't know if the drivers were deciding that, if Piastri was like, hey, let me stay out another lap. We'll see that probably in the post-race interview. I'm sure they'll bring it up to him because I'm sure they're going to be like, well, Mercedes did the double stack. Why didn't you guys?
Yes.
You know, especially because, you know, Mercedes, once again, they're not as solid, I think, as McLaren.
Yeah. But then so Hamilton and Lando had the softs. Verstappen had the hard, and it was Hamilton. It was about 2.5 seconds. Then it was Lando, and I think it was like 5 seconds.
It was definitely over 3. I think it was 3.5.
Okay, so then it was like a little bit more, and then there was Verstappen. But Verstappen found a new gear suddenly with those hards, and he was making up time that I mean, he was so slow earlier.
Mm-hmm.
He was not in conversation for a podium. I was convinced that he wasn't going to be, and he even said it in his post-race interview. He thought they were fighting for 4th, 5th, 6th, maybe.
I thought so too. The rate that he was dropping off, I think the only saving grace he also had is that the Ferrari was so slow that Sainz was never able to catch on to him.
And then also because Piastri's pit was ruined, so he was also behind him.
He had lost so much time.
There's less traffic for him to go to because he was driving so fast. They didn't have DRS for a while because if there was low grip on the track, so they disengage it. And then he was making up time so fast, and there was 10 laps to go, and we were freaking out because Lando has a little bit of faster car, of course, than the Mercedes, which the track was good for Mercedes because there was just really that one section that the McLaren was
significantly faster. Yeah,
exactly. So, but there was 10 laps to go. There was only 2.5 seconds gap. We're like, we don't know if Lando's going to make up the time. Then we had Verstappen coming onto Lando, and Max passed Lando with I think it was 3 laps to go, which was, I mean, it was.
But at that point, the good thing is because I wouldn't say they held each other up a little bit, Norris and Verstappen.
But not as much as I was hoping.
Not enough, but enough for Lewis to have a little bit of I think around a 3-second gap to the second place, which in 3 laps or 4 laps at the time, that's a lot of time to make up on because we both said you need probably around 2 laps with DRS to make a pass on the other person, unless they're making a mistake, obviously.
Yes, of course.
But usually you get the DRS, and then the second lap you'll get close enough with the DRS to make that move.
Yes.
And so
and then it happened.
And then it finally fucking happened.
I know. Since Sir Lewis Hamilton's first win since 2021 Abu Dhabi, it's been such a long time. He's had such a hard time over the years, and I mean, you could tell in the emotions
how much it meant to him
over the radio, and also once the car stopped, he was just in tears, and it was really nice to see George there. I mean,
George was one of the first people to come up and congratulate him because everyone knows how much it meant to him. Like you got shafted by your sport so much. And then you were not even in a championship fighting car the next couple of years. And I mean, yes, he finished P3 last year in the Drivers' Championship, which is not bad.
But I mean, the gap was just
the gap was insane. And it was I mean, last year was just Max Verstappen's year, you know, when it comes to the podiums. Or to the wins.
Yeah.
So it was just really, really beautiful. And it's good to see the Mercedes up front. I am hesitant to believe this is a consistent thing because just the last 2 years have been rough.
I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm enjoying it now, and I'm enjoying the season overall. We've had a bunch of different winners now, or more than we've had previously. Yes, of course, Max is still leading, and he's still won most of the races this season, but it's been really, really fun. And I mean, I'm just so glad it happened. I mean, I cried. You had some watery eyes.
I was chopping onions. And it was just so emotional. And then just you can hear Bono, Lewis's race engineer of the radio. You can tell that he has tears in his tears in his eyes, that he's
choked up a little bit.
And then Lewis over the radio, and it's just nice to see that he was able to get his win.
Yes.
And the one thing I really, really wanted for him is to not only win again, but also to get a win in his last season with Mercedes. So it's not as we didn't get the championship, and then we had a shitbox of a car, and then it just ends on a low.
Yeah.
It didn't this is I mean, of course you want the rest of the season to go well as well, but this is good for his confidence. I'm sure this must have been very, very difficult time for him, but then also it's so beautiful that he was able to get that in his last year with Mercedes.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just, it was long overdue.
Yeah.
Very happy for him, and also that it happened at home.
Yes,
he's
at
now
home.
the driver who with the most wins in a single circuit. He's now leading ahead of Michael Schumacher.
They shared their
they had shared it for a while, and now he's ahead.
Yeah, with 9 wins at Silverstone.
And then Michael Schumacher is with 8. I don't know where his 8's were, and then after that is Ayrton Senna with 6.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just I can't believe this happened today.
Yeah.
It's such an exciting race, especially. I mean, all of it was just so action-packed because of also the weather and the pit stop strategies, and I mean, just an amazing way to start a Sunday.
Yes, definitely. I wanted to take
emotionally drained now.
I wanted to take a nap after this, but I think I need to first calm down.
I know, I'm still like adrenaline.
Yeah, because like at lap 10, when 10 laps were left, I was like, I was just like, I didn't want to believe in it too much, because we've had this where he was leading, but it was like the car was just too slow for him to defend with it. So we've been in that position before, but this time, you know, with the upgrades, and you know, both George and Lewis have been saying that the car has been feeling much better. But I think actually been feeling good for the first time in like 2 years. I also, like, on one hand, not to like take away from Lewis's moment, but it's like also like, as for George, this could have not been easy, that you finally get to go to a big team, and then you get to go to the big team that is currently falling from grace. You know? I know that he had said that Lewis had saved his career, because if Lewis would have already went to Ferrari after 2021, then, because he was like, everyone would have thought that I was shitty because all of a sudden I'm losing in a Mercedes. Everyone would have been like, oh, Russell doesn't know how to drive, right? So by him staying, but anyways, I just I don't know, it's just such a wonderful moment. I'm so happy for him. Yeah, this was really, really special, and I'm glad that we got up for it, that we saw it live.
Agreed.
It was definitely worth it.
But yeah, let us know in the comments below what you think of today's race. If you got to watch it, maybe you'll watch it now because you hear how exciting it was. Yes, you know the outcome of it, but believe me,
it's still worth watching.
It was so much fun to watch. So definitely take a look at that. We also had, just very, very quickly, we also had some news that Ollie Behrman is now part of Haas officially. There's still, of course, lots of rumors going around what's happening to all the other seats. So we'll see if by the time the next race comes around, we'll find out who is going to be in another seat.
There's also a rumor that there might be a mid-season change for
Williams.
For Williams. Sorry, is there a race on my birthday? Oh, there is, before my birthday.
Yes.
So we have now a 2-week gap until the Hungarian GP.
On July 21st, yes.
And then on July 28th, we have the Belgian GP. So we have
a double header.
2 home races for Lando.
Yeah, we have 2 races
Max.
before we have about a month off for the summer break. So we'll see if we'll get some news before the summer break.
Oh, there's a month gap, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Literally what I just said.
Oh, sorry. Is that what you said?
Yes,
Sorry.
literally.
Sorry.
Anyway, so we'll see what happens in the meantime. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys here again at the Daily Racing Show. Bye.